All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the steps you need to get your Ninja 5 or 5 Plus to play nice with the RED Komodo. Okay, I've been on a lot of sets over the last couple of years, and there's no doubt that if there's one piece of equipment I would say I have seen almost everywhere, it is the Atomos Ninja 5, or now you're starting to see a lot more of the Atomos Ninja 5 Plus. It is an extremely ubiquitous piece of equipment on sets. So I think it's fairly safe to say that the Ninja 5 has become the go-to monitor for most indie filmmakers out there in the world today. I mean, it surpasses everything I've seen by far. And when we get to small independent filmmakers, we get to the RED Komodo, which is an incredible piece of technology that allows you to finally get access to the great red color science and so much of the red technology at an achievable price point. So I think you're seeing a lot of filmmakers now starting to migrate to the RED Komodo and using it. And it puts us in an interesting situation because the Ninja 5 and the 5 Plus are great little monitors and recorders, but as you all know, they are HDMI in only. They have no SDI ports, and the RED Komodo, as it just so happens to be, is an SDI out only with no HDMI out. So the key I think a lot of us have is we have this great equipment, but they don't communicate and they don't talk to each other. And I think that brings us to the obvious question of why even bother trying to get a Ninja 5 or 5 Plus to communicate with the RED Komodo anyway. And I think there's a couple of reasons that are important that if you're a filmmaker out there do make a lot of sense is why if you have the system, why you want to get them communicating and talking to each other. And really the first one deals with one of the great limits of the RED Komodo, which is it only has one card slot inside the camera. You cannot do backup or redundant recording if you have a RED Komodo with this camera. You need to get some kind of external monitor to record. And luckily for us, the Ninja 5 and 5 Plus, besides being incredible monitors, are really, really good recorders. So what that means is that if we can get these things communicating, you can make backup recordings or just record straight up in ProRes and have a good ProRes backup right here in your monitor ready to go. It's a very, very important thing. Really takes away a lot of the stress of only having that one card here in the camera. The other thing is, honestly, the Ninja 5 is a great monitor on its own. I mean, even if you took away the recorder, it works really well outside. It's got false color, great guides in it, a lot of stuff that you would want as a filmmaker anyway. So it's just nice having access to that monitor, which brings us to the point that if you already have it, there's no need for you to spend money on a new monitor. Why waste money? I mean, this is a heavy investment. Let's go ahead and use equipment we already have, repurpose it, and it lets you basically extend the life of your purchase and get more value for your money. Oh, and real quick, before I get into the whole intricacies of hooking this thing up together, please do me a favor. If you are interested in this, if this is interesting subject matter, please subscribe and hit the like button. It actually makes a huge difference in being able to keep this channel running. And it's just nice to know that this thing is actually getting out there and people are actually registering that. So subscribing, it would really help me if you did it. I'd really appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that button. All right, let's get back and look at this thing. Now, in order to get this thing to work, we need to get them to communicate. And this is where this little piece comes in really, really handy. This is the AtomX SDI Module, specifically for the Ninja 5 and the 5 Plus. And what's great, it's built by Atomos, so it's designed to go in there. And it's just a nice little piece of equipment that really goes together. You can see right here, it's got an SDI in and an SDI out on it. And the great thing about this is it actually comes, and I can slip it right here in the battery port of my Ninja. So it actually comes up there. It doesn't take too much of a space. I mean, if you have a big brick battery on there, it's basically gonna take less space than that. And what's really nice about this is this brings 12G SDI ins and outs to the Ninja 5, and it can support 4K up to 60 frames per second and 2K up to 240 frames a second. So it really gives you a lot of options and just really extends this up to a much more professional type level monitor. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about powering this little puppy. Now I'm gonna take off my matte box here just to make my life a little bit easier. But as you can see, because this does hit into your battery plate of your Ninja 5, you can literally take another battery and basically put it on there. It essentially extends your battery out. So if you want to take a Sony brick battery, you can put it in there and power it like you traditionally would any kind of Atomos Ninja or V or 5 Plus. And you can see it adds about 2 inches of space there to your piece. Now that being said, for me, if I'm shooting something on set, I do not want to deal with separate batteries. I hate that. I want to have everything off of one battery. And this is where you can use this little battery eliminator that comes with most Ninja devices that you get. And what's great is you can just put that in right there and boom, it's ready to go. Now you can power it with a cable. I'll plug in my Ninja. And now, as you can see, I'll cut it on. And now I am getting power. As it cuts on, you can see right here, I'm getting power from the V-mount battery. Okay, and so now that we got the power up and running on it, we need to talk about connecting the signal to this cable. And this is very, very important if you are someone who has spent most of their life dealing with HDMI cables for monitoring, is SDI does require a different level of care to make sure that you don't blow out the port in the back of your RED Komodo. You've probably heard this before, but it's worth knowing. I want to make sure you know. Whenever you're talking about an SDI cable, you always need to think of it needs to be the last thing on, the first thing off. Because you don't want to sit there and have any kind of power surge that comes through your SDI and destroy the only output you have on your RED Komodo. Or honestly, this applies if you're using an Arri Alexa or a RED Monstro. It doesn't matter. You need to have good SDI workflow to make sure you don't destroy your SDIs and blow out your equipment. But that being said, now that I got everything powered on, I will come here now. I will hook up my SDI here on my RED Komodo. Get that sucker locked in right there. I'm going to come back up here. And as you can see right here, there's an SDI input right up here. I'm going to come up here. I'm just going to hook that up right there. Okay, and so there you go. Now we have a SDI signal coming in to our RED Komodo. It is working. Doo-doo! We now have the Atomos Ninja 5 and 5 Plus here as a legitimate monitor for the RED Komodo. And as it stands right now, it works great just as a straight up monitor. I have access to all the information from my RED Komodo. I can see my traffic lights, I can see all my camera information. Basically everything I'd want from a monitor is now being displayed here on the Atomos. Now that being said, if you want to use this as a recorder, there are some steps you can do to get it out and rolling. Now one thing I would make a note about this module right here is they do say that, Atomos does say that it supports raw video conversion. And what happens is through SDI. But the thing is, there are only certain cameras right now that are legitimately supported as SDI raw signals that can be recorded up here on the Atomos Ninja 5 Plus. And it's a $99 upgrade to put on there, and I'll be honest, on the Atomos website, the RED Komodo is not listed as one of the signals that you can send a raw signal from the SDI out here. So if you are someone that wants to record raw from the camera up to here, you're probably not going to get that. But I think that's okay because I really see this more as almost a proxy type recording. And the fact of the matter is you can record 4K, DCI, and UHD up through this signal to have great 4K backups and then get your raw recording inside the camera like you would traditionally do. But it is something to know if you're interested in raw recording. Now, there's a couple of things if you do want to record, there are some settings that you kind of want to look at the RED to make sure you're set up for the best success possible. And what you need to do is you need to come here in the menu and you need to come down to monitoring. And once in there, you'll see SDI. And here's where you can set a lot of the things that are going to set you up how you want to do it. Now, you may want to do just a 1080 proxy. You can have your SDI exporting a 1080 signal. Because this is such a good SDI signal, you can actually go ahead and export all the way up to 4K UHD, 4K DCI. You can do 2K, 1080, do whatever you want. Let's say 4K UHD right here. I will do that through my signal. Now you can also export a LUT. If you want to have a LUT that's sort of a image LUT to help you preview, you can have that on there or not have it on. Now the next things are important because this is treating this like a signal. If you're recording proxy type files here on your monitor, you want to make sure you don't bake in all of the menu and guides into your recording because that would be disastrous if you come home and need it. So you can see here, you can turn the guides on and off. And if you sit there, you can turn off your tools so they don't show up. And the other thing, this is really important, you can turn off the overlay. And you'll see here when I turn off the overlay, that basically then removes all the overlay information. So you're getting just a clean signal, and that will give you a nice, good proxy recording if you want to get a proxy recording from your Atomos Ninja V. The other thing you can do, if I turn my overlays back on, you know, depending on the guides that you have, because these are top, if you're shooting a 1.8.5 or something, or a 2.1 or something like that, you may even be able to keep these overlays on if you know you're going to crop them out later. But that's just kind of a risky thing. Just be aware you are baking those in. So I would probably recommend cutting off your overlays when you are exporting if you want to record on the Atomos Ninja V Plus. If you want to use it just as a monitor, then it's not a big deal. I would put all that stuff back on there because it's so useful to have. So now that we talked about being able to record and get that backup recording on a RED Komodo, which in my opinion is an absolutely gigantic thing to have, let's go ahead and talk about what I consider the other really, really awesome thing about this module, on this Pro module on the Ninja V. And that is this: you have an SDI 12G out as well as the HDMI out on your camera. And I know if you're using something like a RED Komodo, you're probably going to be daisy chaining a number of devices. So for instance, when I'm shooting, what I'll have on this traditionally is I will have an EVF, my monitor, and I'll have a wireless monitor that I'm sending off to Video Village. I'll probably go to the wireless monitor first and then daisy chain all the way around. Because of that, I need to know I can run my signal through all these devices and they're going to work flawlessly. And this is really, really nice. And I will show you now that it works both in sending both an SDI signal out and an HDMI. So what I'm going to do, I have a port keys monitor here that may be a little bit easier to demonstrate this. I was going to use my EVF, but I don't think you can see that nearly as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my port keys monitor. I'm going to power that here on my camera. Let me just put it here in my V-mount. Boom. Let's cut it on. This is another thing that I really like about this module that lets you convert the Atomos, is the fact that the SDI cables come out to the side. Just kind of keeps it out of the way. It's kind of nice to have out of the way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this here, I'm going to basically hook up my SDI here to my out port, and then I'm going to bring this over here. This is not really good cable management, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. I'll bring in my SDI over here to my in, and now you can see I have each monitor. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see each monitor there. So as you can see, the SDI flawlessly sends a signal out to your next SDI device, and it works really well. Now what's great about this is it also does cross convert. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take off this HDMI here, just so it's off. Let's pop that off. Boom. And I'm going to hook up an HDMI cable. So here's my HDMI. I'm going to put it on the HDMI of my Atomos. I'll put it on the HDMI in on my port keys. And then what I'm going to do is I just need now to come to my port keys and change it from SDI to HDMI in. And as you can see right here, I now have my signal between the two of them, cross converting from an SDI signal to an HDMI out. And what's awesome is this is an HDMI monitor, the Atomos Ninja V, that is converting the signal into an SDI and then bringing it right back out here, converting it back to an HDMI out. So I can have an SDI in and an HDMI out, which could be very helpful depending on what you have to do. And that's kind of just a little latency experiment, really low grade there. But that being said, I have daisy chained these things on numerous things and never had a problem working together with them. All right, guys, so there you go. That is what we have. We have an Atomos Ninja V Plus that is playing very, very nicely with a RED Komodo with no problem whatsoever. And I can tell you from pure testament, taking this on set, I've never had a problem using this, and it is really nice to have. So this Atomos AtomX SDI module really is a fantastic little piece of hardware that just expands your Atomos Ninja V so much, especially if you're someone that's got it and want to look at upgrading your cameras. It is so nice knowing that you don't have to go out there and buy a bunch of monitors too. You can use the monitors you're comfortable with, that you already have, and get ready to go and rock and roll with it. Anyway, guys, I hope that was helpful. I'd love to hear what you have to say down there. Please leave me any comments. And yeah, go ahead, keep on shooting. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.